I did see a Finextra article and it said, the account is slated to launch early next year. And I thought, slated already? That's a bit harsh. And I realised it's a typo. It's like probably a Freudian one, but never mind.
So the first story today is that Google will offer checking accounts in partnership with banks starting next year. So Google is the latest big tech company to make a move into banking and personal financial services. The company is gearing up to offer checking accounts to consumers starting as early as next year. Google is calling the project, I don't know if this is cash as a pun or like cachet in the French way, whichever way, you take it as you will. And it'll partner with banks and credit unions to offer checking accounts, with the banks handling all financial and compliance activities related to the accounts. So there's been a lot of debate about this on Twitter. Is it actually a bank? Is it not a bank? Is this just another data play, et cetera, et cetera? Who wants to go first?
Yeah, I mean, I think what it comes down to really is, big tech playing in banking, and the kind of conversation we've all had in the office probably is who do you trust? I think we had a few polls going on, is it Facebook? Is it Google? Who would you bank with? And there's not an awful lot of information on this one. It sounds like they are saying they're going to add some analytics to it. There might be some loyalty aspects and offers which could interest people. But I think other than that, we are a little bit short on details from what I can see. I did see a Finextra article and it said, the account is slated to launch early next year. And I thought, slated already? That's a bit harsh. And I realised it's a typo. It's like probably a Freudian one, but never mind.
I can say that does happen with Finextra on occasion. As somebody who used to work as a journalist and is like obsessed with editing, I do pick these things up much more than most people would.
Yeah, no, life. I think the interesting thing for me behind the scenes was a couple of things. One, the initial financial partners that Google are working with include Citigroup and Stanford Federal Credit Union. So they're working with a very large bank and a teeny tiny bank. What's going on behind the scenes there?
The neighborhood one.
Yeah.
Well, what I think is interesting about the banking partnerships is for so long people have said, big tech versus banks. And this is such an interesting way for them to sort of come into the financial services world, into the banking world, where effectively each party is playing their roles. The banks are kind of playing the rails. They're taking care of the regulatory and compliance tasks. And Google, as you say, we're still short of details, and it'd be interesting to see what's compelling from a consumer perspective that they're going to offer. But they're, in theory, going to add the value-added services around it. So it's a really interesting partnership, and it may be a model that we'll continue to see in the future with both fintech and big tech.
I mean, I think the interesting thing for me as somebody who uses Google Pay on a regular basis is the loyalty aspect. Instantly, my ears prick up because it is a nightmare currently trying to use loyalty cards through Google Pay. You can add them. We're in the UK, so I've got my Boots card, which is like a chemist, and I've got my Marks & Spencer's, like a grocery card on there. But you have to open the app, zoom into the card, and then like try and get it to scan on like the self-checkout barcode reader. And by the time I'm finished, I'm like, yeah, whatever. And so I actually end up losing a lot of points that way, unless I've got my purse with me, which I don't very often. So if you can start incorporating all those things to be able to, my Google Pay automatically adds my loyalty points, and then you start getting things like, my Boots vouchers come straight to my wallet or my Google Pay, and then when I pay at Boots, it's automatically deducted. All that kind of good stuff. I might do it. Probably not for my salary. I don't know. It's weird. We still have that thing, don't we, where it's like, secondary account. I'm going to keeping my salary separate.
Yeah, and to be fair, this is the world that Flux kind of plays in ourselves, because our view is that if you link your cards or whatever, whatever you're using, and you have Flux enabled, then you seamlessly collect loyalty points. So we know that people do that. They kind of think, it's too much faff, I'm not getting another card out. And it's like, if you can make that seamless, and if Google can do it, then yeah, they're going to win.
This goes back to the kind of 2011 company called TrialPay. Alex Rampell was the CEO, is now a partner at Andreessen Horowitz. And their original vision was closing the redemption loop. This idea that all the way from advertising right through to purchase and then back through to discovery again, there was a loop that was broken in the middle, and the broken bit was the payment. And when you're a merchant, a payment is a fee, it's a cost. So you're always going to try and reduce the fee as low as possible. But new customers are a price worth paying. I will pay to acquire new customers as a merchant, and I'll pay to convert them. So if I can have the data about the payments that have succeeded, I can see that advertising did not only get somebody to your page, that it actually converted, and then I can change the price at which this advertising runs for. So for Google, it's always been very much a data play.
Yeah, and I thought 2 use cases immediately that would help me. And life is G Suite integration, so B2B. Wouldn't it be great if your whole company expenses could run through that? That would solve it for our company. And already in Chrome, I can pre-populate my payments on a online transaction, and Google's made that seamless. I just have to remember my CVC. So I think there's a big opportunity to act as a distribution network for that.
And I think what's interesting is they really have to design this around the consumer, because I agree with you, it's totally a data play, but right now it still feels like technology looking for a problem to solve. So would love to see what they actually do. And your point about trial pay, it's interesting, that was years ago. That problem has still not been fixed at scale.
I completely agree.
And it's really interesting that all these big companies throwing billions at it.
They've been trying to fix it for more than a decade. I remember Money 2020 in 2012, this was one of the big topics. When will big tech get their data play right? And I think it's still not been solved. And I think we've seen some progress in terms of the X Pays, the Android Pay, the Apple Pay, and so on. But we haven't seen the progress necessarily in the bit that they wanted to fix. And it feels like now moving deeper down the stack from the payment to the checking account is still trying to solve that. But in doing so, you realize that having a checking account and delivering that to consumers is hard. And it's like they're coming from solving their problem, not the consumer's problem. But they do say that they're talking about, offer product advantages, including that loyalty program. But we're not clear if it will start to show fees. Are they going to do some basic PFM? You can kind of get that as a consumer now. So they're just another provider of that. So the why Google, why now question, I think, remains unanswered.
Well, maybe we can answer the why now question by talking about how